Okay, so my name is Amogh. I'm working as first team Indian assistant coach with NorthEast United Football Club. And yeah, I've been here 3 years with the club now. I remember one sentence that I really believed in is I didn't want to keep football as a hobby. I wanted to make sure that it is my profession. This one sentence I had submitted to my university when I went to the UK to study is that is what I dream of. And right now, I tell it to everyone that I'm living my dream. If you think about Spain, you think about what? They like to keep the ball, possession-based football. If you think about Brazil, you always think about 1v1 duels, skills, creativity in the final third, expressive players. You know, if you think about England, a lot strong, physically strong in the air, dominating, high intensity, box to box. Why are these things distinct to these countries? Because that they are guided by these set of principles across all ages. If I ask about India, it will be very difficult for me to describe something about an Indian player or an Indian team. Spanish players, any players that you can think of in Spain are the players that love the ball. They feel the ball. They take care of the ball. You know, and that love for the ball has something that the Spanish people that I'm working with has taught me, you know, because at the end of the day, if you don't have the ball, you cannot play, right? The biggest shock, per to say, was the culture. In India, we are not a nation that is brought up with sports in our blood, as per to say. But there, football is probably with the moment you're born, you're given a red or a blue jersey, and that's the team that you end up supporting or playing for the rest of your life. You speak about football, you think about football, you listen about football, you dream about football. And that really creates a strong culture right from the youth, and then that progresses on to the senior level, you know.
At 25, Amogh Adige became the youngest coach to manage a side in an Indian Super League match when he took charge of NorthEast United FC against FC Goa in Guwahati on 24th April. A product of British football education with UEFA A and now undergoing AFC Pro license, Adige has spent 3 years at NewF, moving from analyst to first team assistant coach under Juan Pedro Benali. In a conversation with TheNewsMill, he spoke about the record, his journey across 3 continents, and what Indian football needs to find its identity.
I think it's been a journey across the 3 years. You know, I came here, I joined initially in an analyst capacity with the first team, and the role involved doing performance analysis, looking into recruitment, looking into the scouting side of the things, and then that mixed along with coaching responsibilities within the first team and with the reserve team as well, with Musa coach. So that then progressed on from the first 2 years into this year, where I got the opportunity to transition into a full-time coaching position with the first team. And so, you know, it's been a gradual journey across the different areas and different verticals within the club, and one that has taught me a lot of things in all these areas. See, I think the biggest thing and the biggest influence, if something that has had, is the group of people that I'm working with right now, you know. So that runs from our head coach, the goalkeeper coaches, the fitness coach, and also, you know, the group of coaches, you know, that has been the real learning for me, you know, anything and everything to do with the technical side of things on the pitch, and just to deal with football outside of the pitch, you know, these kind of things, working with them closely now for 3 years, it has become like a family. And there has been lots and lots of learning. I jokingly tell them all the time that, you know, these 3 years have been like a bachelor's degree in football for me, in a way. So that tells a lot. So I think these people, the coaching staff and the staff around, has played a very big impact in what I'm doing right now today. So I always wanted to do something in sports when I was young, and I used to play. I was a wicketkeeper batsman in cricket, and I was a goalkeeper in football. And then I had an unfortunate back injury and an injury on my forehead, which kind of shook me off, but I didn't really want to leave football. So I thought, what's the next best way I can be involved in sports is to be on the technical side, other side of the line, per to say. So I thought, what's the best way to be about that is to get educated. So in India, unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of opportunities in terms of formal education for football. So I went to the UK. I was in the UK for 4 years, in which I did a bachelor's in football coaching and performance, and I also completed my UEFA A license from the UK, and that gave me a very good insight into high performance football. Anything and everything that has to do with improving players on and off the pitch, I studied there. So that background, I then went to the US. I was coaching in the US for a MLS Next Academy team for a year. I came back to India. I was with Bangalore FC. I did my AFC coaching licenses along the way as well. And right now I'm doing my AFC Pro license as we speak. So, I've had a varied journey across UK, across the US, coming back to India at Bangalore FC, working in elite youth football, and now with NorthEast in senior football in the ISL. And also been fortunate to work within the national teams set up with the India under 23 with Musa coach. So, that has given me a good diverse range of experiences which I can use and take into my day-to-day life here at NorthEast United. So at cricket, I actually represented so there is the districts, there is zonals, and there is a state. So I represented our zone. So I used to be in Kolhapur in Maharashtra. So I represented Kolhapur zone for the state championship in cricket. And in terms of football, it was up to university. So I played up to university level when I was back here in India in college in Pune. So I think it's been 1 year now that I completed my UEFA A license, and I feel it is just a matter of fresh ideas, new perspectives, because we do have a really strong coach education pathway in India as well. But the reason I chose to also do UEFA courses was to gain a different perspective, a different insight, and fresh ideas. Make new connections and contacts with top coaches across the globe. So that is something that I really wanted to do, and whatever I learned from there, I'm trying to bring with me here and try to deliver that, or try to get fresh ideas and try to implement that in my environment right now. I think it's just the biggest shock per to say was the culture. In India, we are not a nation that is brought up with sports in our blood, as per to say. But there, football is probably, with the moment you're born, you're given a red or a blue jersey, and that's the team that you end up supporting or playing for the rest of your life. You speak about football, you think about football, you listen about football, you dream about football. So, and that really creates a strong culture right from the youth, and then that progresses on to the senior level. That culture was really good for me to adapt into and take from there to bring back to India, is to just implement that culture. Because people say, what do we need to improve, what do we need to change? For me, more than tactics, coaches, new ideas, new strategies, bringing foreign players, this, that, for me, is to develop a culture. Once you have a country singing the same rhymes of football per se, that is where we can really see a change. Right now in India, that happens for cricket, and that is the cultural change. If we try to bring into football, is when we'll actually see the game develop across all the areas. I think football for me is life. I don't think I think of anything else that I can do if it is not football. So whenever I am maybe walking along the street, I'm thinking about football. I'm talking to you, you're talking about football. We're on the pitch, we're talking about football. If you go out in the evening for a dinner in a restaurant, probably we'll have a mobile watching the games in the Champions League or the ISL or the national teams. So football is life. It's a habit. Football is a habit. So probably that is what I would describe it as. It's a habit. Yeah, see, football is a team sport. What it teaches you is how to deal with wins, how to deal with losses, how to deal with really good moments, how to deal with really bad moments, you know, and it really teaches you a lot about life in the same aspect, because in life as well, you're going to win some battles, you're going to lose some battles. So, being in this environment and dealing with those wins and losses on a week to week basis, that really creates a strong character inside you. And that you take outside of football and try to live it as a principle in your life. So, that would be a very key characteristic that, football or sport has given me, is to be stable and calm in victory, be stable and calm in defeat, because every day there is going to be another chance for you to be better and to grow. See, I've been working with Spanish, the same set of staff for it's been 3 years together now. So one thing that it has taught me is about being creative. Spanish players, any players that you can think of in Spain, are the players that love the ball. They feel the ball. They take care of the ball. And that love for the ball has something that the Spanish people that I'm working with has taught me. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have the ball, you cannot play, right? So that is something that has been really instilled into me, is the love for the ball. And I've also picked up good Spanish along the way. So now I do speak with them in Spanish, and all our discussions are in flavorful Spanish. So that is something I've picked up from them as well, the language and the love for the ball. I think it's been a real journey in Guwahati. I came here very closed minded, because I was not really sure what to expect. I was not really sure about the people, about the place. But now I'm very proud, and very happy to call this my home. I'm really excited now. I spend more time here than I spend anywhere else, in my own home, in my any other places. So I'm really comfortable here now. The people are lovely. I'm trying new food here every single time. I enjoy Bihu. I enjoy the festivities. I enjoy the food, the local sweets, the pitas. So I've been trying to immerse into the culture of the place, and it's been really positive. From that closed mind that I had to right now, it's been a mind-opening journey for me so far in Guwahati. There, what it comes down to is the details. There, everything at that level really comes down to very small details. And that is something that we need to start doing, is not overlook things, not just turn the page over. Is to follow. There is a very clear structure, very clear pathway. Everything is guided by really clear principles. So for example, there are youth setup. For example, where I was, everybody from under 9 until under 18, there is specific curriculum. They are trying to create a DNA for their academy team. So you might see a team that is in the south of the country, you might see a team that is in the north of the country. You will find distinct features and similarities between these kind of units, because they are guided by the same underlying principles. And once you have an overall structure like that, where you have a national syllabus, you have a national curriculum, you have a philosophy that drives your playing, state of play, your coach education, your footballing administration, then there is progress along the way. So, having a really set system of work, which has a guiding principles, which is uniform across, that is something that is needed, because otherwise, if everybody is doing their own things, you don't have the DNA, because I'll give you an example. Always Spanish, if you think about Spain, you think about what? They like to keep the ball, possession-based football. If you think about Brazil, you always think about 1v1 duels, skills, creativity in the final third, expressive players. If you think about England, strong, physically strong in the air, dominating, high intensity, box to box. Why are these things distinct to these countries? Because that they are guided by these set of principles across all ages. If I ask about India, even I would be it would be very difficult for me to describe something about an Indian player or an Indian team. And once we have that, that is then how we can start to develop and take it further. That is what I believe. Yeah, I think I remember one sentence that I really believed in is I didn't want to keep football as a hobby. I wanted to make sure that it is my profession. This one sentence I had submitted to my university when I went to the UK to study is that is what I dream of. And right now, I tell it to everyone that I'm living my dream. Football is my profession now. It's just not my part-time hobby where I do some other work from 9 to 5. From 5 to 7, I go to the pitch, I coach, or I do something for 2 hours and I go back to my job. So what we need is awareness within the parents also that football or sports in general can be a profession. It cannot just be a hobby which you do on the side and then you do something else. So just awareness about that, because there are vast sectors in the sports market now. It's not just, for example, if you're looking at football, you can be a coach, you can be an analyst, you can be a physio, you can be a SNC coach, you can be a media manager, you can be an operations personnel, you can be into football journalism and media. There are endless sectors. So you don't really need to focus on one. There are many aspects, and something of that, if it interests you, take it up. Be positive, and really, if you are passionate about something, you only live once, as they say. So just take it up and really have a love for whatever you do.